mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 4 of HBO's The White Lotus, entitled In the Sandbox. Now, you guys know how I like to talk about the title. Well, we're talking about this one because the title In the Sandbox is based on a line that one of the new characters, Jack, well, he's not technically new. We met him at the end of last week's episode. He was the pool guy that Portia was. I was about to say effing, but I have to keep my ad thing in mind. I can't be dropping F-bombs within these first 30 seconds. But Jack's the guy that she was ogling in the pool in the last episode, and he delivers a great line in this conversation. He's talking about Albie, and he's referring to himself in comparison to Albie, and he says he knows how to have fun in the sandbox. And I love that line because I don't know what it means, but it sounds wild, and I love the fact that Portia's reaction mirrored mine. He said it, and I'm like, before she even said anything, he said it, and he goes, "You know what I mean?" And I out loud was like, "No, but it sounds great." She's like, "No, but it sounds great." And I'm like, I don't know why. I just love that phrase because it sounds so dirty, but like talking about a sandbox makes it feel like it's about kids, and like it's just a really well written phrase. Like whoever came up with that, pat on the back to you. That was a hilarious fucking line. I'm gonna start saying it. And man, Jack, like I'm just gonna start off talking about Jack because I'm gonna talk about all the groups, the couples, the Grassos, all that, like I do every week in a moment. But look, can we talk about this Jack guy? Like what? Why is this guy so fucking charming? Like, is it the accent or I don't know what it is, but she's watching this guy. Look, actually, let me tie it to something else. So at the end of the episode, there's kind of like an inside the episode thing, and every week. And this week they did an interview. Well, they actually do an interview. The two guys just kind of talk to each other, but it was the actor who plays Albie and the actor who plays Jack. And one of the questions they asked the guys was, which of the White Lotus characters would you go on a vacation with? And the guy that plays Jack was like, I can't hang out with my character. And the guy that plays Albie goes, I know he's fucking my girl, but I hang out with Jack too. And I'm sitting here like, I mean, I ain't gay, but I mean, Jack seemed like a really good time. like I fucking hang with Jack too. Like I can't help it. This guy is so fucking charming, man. I don't know if it's the accent, but whatever it was, that guy, that actor, has a really unique energy that's very like contagious almost. Like that guy starts smiling at you and you start smiling. Like that's how fucking just like interesting and compelling this guy is. Like he's so, I don't know, he's just when I say attractive, I don't mean like good looking. He's a good looking guy too, but I mean attractive in the sense of like he is like a tractor beam. Like people are just gonna be drawn to him and attracted to him. And I just thought, like, what great casting for this guy. Great character this guy is on a show where every week I kind of come in and talk about how, not every week, but in general about this show, that I just don't connect with the characters that the way the fans of the show do. And I feel like fans of the show look at these people as like, I know people like this, and they can relate to these people or at least understand these people, or as these people just seem ridiculous to me. And Jack is ridiculous in a certain sort of way as well. But, Jack's the first character on this show where I'm just kind of like, yo, I fuck with that character. Like, and I'm sure Jack's going to end up being a piece of shit. But, like, for the time being, I'm going to sit in this moment of episode 4 where they introduce this brand new character. He drops an awesome fucking phrase and is incredibly fucking charming to the point where I'm just like, am I gay? Like, do I like this guy? like, do I want to fuck this guy? I don't. But, yeah, this Jack character is really entertaining. So I like what he's going to bring into the Portia and Albie dynamic, especially because I'm going to talk about where I think that's going to go in a moment. But I want to start by talking, well, not start, but I want to continue by talking about the couples. Again, that's Cameron and Daphne, and then Ethan and Harper. So, we open the episode with Cameron next to both Mia and Lucia in the morning. We know that Cameron, Cameron had sex with at least Lucia, but they both wake up all three wake up in the same bed. So he probably smashed all three. I mean, both of them. And then Ethan picks up the phone from Harper's calls, and he essentially lies about the night, like I said that he probably would. He doesn't he doesn't, completely lie, but he lies by omission. He doesn't tell her that Cameron had sex, which is, again, that wasn't his dick. He didn't have sex, but he did make this kind of like bro code promise. But I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So upon reuniting in person, Harper is excited to break her "you can trust me" promise that she made to Daphne. All the stuff, like both Ethan and Harper learned a great deal about their the person they were paired with. Ethan about Cameron, and Harper about Daphne. And they both were given kind of like, not ultimatums, but kind of like, hey, what stays here, what happened here stays here, right? And both of them agreed, yeah, sure. But then when Harper gets back, she can't wait to tell Ethan everything she learned about Daphne and Cameron's relationship, because for Harper, like, the validity and soundness of her marriage relies on the perfectness of Cameron and Daphne's marriage being a facade. Like, she needs to know that they're just putting on a front with how happy they are and how great their marriage is, so that for herself and her marriage that they both know is flawed, they just don't communicate it that well. For her, she can go, oh, these shitty people who seem to have a good marriage, I can now feel better about myself and my marriage because they're full of shit. And we got a solid marriage because we're not lying to ourselves like they are. And I think that's a very interesting kind of like mental gymnastics that Harper is doing to try to she's not trying to acknowledge and fix the flaws in her marriage. She's trying to look at these people who she looks down on, who seem to have a good marriage. She's thinking, I'm going to build my marriage up by bringing their marriage down. And like that allowed her to completely betray the promise that she made Daphne to kind of keep the shit between the two of them. So, it's tough for her to look down on those two if they're actually having a fairly good marriage. So, for her, hearing that Cameron cheats and Daphne does her own thing, in her mind, it validates her marriage. But then she finds this condom wrapper on this couch. And this is the same couch that we saw Cameron having sex with Lucia on, because if you remember at the end of the last episode, Ethan is kind of like up against like a door jamb and Mia kisses him. They start she seems to kind of like start to move towards sex, and he shuts it down. But then he looks over his left shoulder and he sees Cameron clapping Lucia's cheeks in the background and stares savagely at it. I can't get over how savage he looked when he was looking at that. But that's the same couch that Harper finds the condom wrapper on. And now she has to grapple with, in her eyes, the reality that not only is... So, like, she comes into this conversation thinking, hey, I'm going to tell Ethan how fucked up their marriage is so we can both feel better about our marriage, which is already wrong and shitty in the first place. But now she comes and finds this condom wrapper, which she, of course, is going to assume is Ethan's. And now she's like, okay, well, now what's going on with my marriage? Like, I'm still behind the Cameron and Daphne marriage because now I just see Ethan has an empty condom wrapper after our issues with sex have already been brought out in public light at dinner or breakfast. I don't remember what meal they were having. So she's already dealing with that fact that Cameron and Daphne possibly look at them as having trouble having sex in their marriage, which they don't have, they being Cameron and Daphne. And now she has to deal with the fact like, oh, I thought I had them beat in this category, and now to come to find out, I don't. So really, really interesting stuff happening with the couples. She being Harper, repeatedly asked Ethan what happened the night before. And Ethan is much more loyal to the bro code and not discussing what happened that night. And he, like I said at the top of the video, he leaves out, he mentions mostly everything except the important stuff, which being Cameron having sex with Lucia, which... interestingly enough, I hypothesized last week that Ethan might be gay and have a thing for Cameron. He's choosing to protect Cameron over kind of like having something to bond with his wife over, because she comes back like, yo, guess what Daphne told me? Their marriage is all fucked up. And not all fucked up, but like, not from their eyes it's not all fucked up, but from Harper's eyes it is. But they have like this weird fucking dynamic where like they cheat on each other, they do whatever the fuck. They're not the perfect couple that they make themselves out to be. They could have bonded with that, and Ethan goes, yo, guess what, though? Cameron fucked somebody last night, so you right, they're both full of shit. He, instead of providing the information that would have allowed him to bond with his wife, he instead keeps it secret and stays loyal to Cameron. So he's choosing Cameron over his wife in a theoretical sense. So I think it's only a matter of time before he chooses Cameron over his wife in a literal sense. But I can't say I think it's a matter of time, but that's still where I'm going. I'm still sticking to that. The idea that Ethan has a thing for Cameron, and that now this was kind of proof that he's willing to damage his relationship with his wife to strengthen one with Cameron. That was a really good, well put together sentence by me. I like that, nailing that point, like landing it home like that. Like, that was nice. Let's see, where do I want to go next? Oh, I didn't even mention the fact that Harper keeps asking Ethan about this, but she keeps asking him what happened the previous night. She's waiting for him to voluntarily say, well, in her mind, to voluntarily say that he had sex with somebody. He's withholding the fact that Cameron had sex with somebody. And she keeps asking him, and he keeps not telling her. And I hope that this doesn't end up in a place where she, after being tired of waiting on him to confess, that she just then assumes that he had sex with somebody else and then decides that she's going to react and respond in a literal physical way. Like, oh, if he's going to fuck somebody and not tell me, I'm going to fuck somebody and not tell him. And I'm hoping that person isn't Cameron, but I guessed in episode 1 or 2 that Harper and Cameron was going to fuck, or at the very least that Harper was going to make a pass at him. And I feel like after now these 4 episodes, I am even stronger in that belief. That's what's gonna happen. I just want to be right. I don't really care if that happens. I just want to be right. So moving on to talking about the Grassos. Mia and Lucia both shower in Bert's room because of course they have a key, unbeknownst to him. And he comes in and he sees Mia half naked, getting ready and getting dressed. And he tells Dom later that he saw them, not just like, oh, I walked in my room and there was a half-naked girl. It was like, no, actually, it was the same 2 girls that I saw coming out of your room. And then later, he sees Albie with them. And he gives a great line, like father, like son. And it's true. Now, each of them has had some sort of, by the end of the episode, each of them has had some sort of, we'll say each of them has had some sort of sexual situation with one of them. Bert's only being a physical, hey, I can see some titties. We'll count that. Dom had sex with both of them, right? No, I think Mia had passed out or something like that, or fallen asleep. So, but they've all had some sort of situation. We'll probably end up cycling back to that in future episodes, but I am curious to see. Well, I'll talk about it in a minute when I talk about Portia. So, Albie's going to meet with Portia. They agree to spend a day together. And we know that he's completely dumbstruck by her because on his way to the meeting spot, he walks past what is, I think, I don't know if we see them that clearly, but he walks past what I think we are clearly meant to interpret as 2 beautiful women. And he doesn't even look at them. He doesn't do a second glance, nothing, because he's on his way to meet his Portia that he is into, only to arrive and to see her flirting with Mr. Sandbox Jack. And like, you can't help but feel really bad for Albie in this moment, because up to this point he has been your model guy, like the good guy, and he's falling for Portia, it would seem, and then he ends up seeing her with Jack, and yeah, it ends up really bad because he then goes to confront them, and that scene was painfully awkward. Like, man, you can't help but feel bad for Albie in that moment, man. I don't really feel bad for him in that moment because he willingly went to go embarrass himself. Like, he should have just dipped out, but hey, if he had dipped out, he wouldn't have met Lucia and ended up finishing the episode. He was finishing all right. So something else about Albie, though, that I thought was interesting was when him and Dom and Bert are eating, Dom tries to guilt trip Albie into advocating for him to his family. That was so fucking gross what Dom did. Like the whole thing of, what did he say? She's not gonna listen to anybody, well, except maybe him. Like the way he tries to like guilt him into that, like, oh, they could be here if Albie would just to talk to him. Like, oh, what a shithead this guy is. I didn't dislike Dom until that moment. Like we haven't learned enough about what Dom did in the past for me to really know, to have any reason to dislike him now, because I don't know what he did. I know what we think he did, or what he supposedly did, but I'm not sure what he did exactly. And we do know that he cheated on his wife, but I'm not gonna sit here and say it's okay, because I'm just sitting here railing on everybody else who's treating people shitty. But seeing him be shitty in the moment, because we could look at what he did in the past that we didn't see against his wife, we could look at that as in the past, and maybe the Dom that we've seen this time is a whole new guy. But no, when we see him throw Albie under the bus like that and try to guilt trip him into like making things right, that shows a level of maturity of like a teenager. And Dom is a complete piece of shit for throwing his kid under the bus like that. And then now I look at it like, okay, no, this guy hasn't changed. He was a piece of shit to his wife, and now he's being a piece of shit to his kid. And then Mia, this is the only part of the episode that didn't really work for me. Is after Mia and Lucia have sex with Cameron, they kind of wake up with this like different, like with different worldviews. Like Lucia like starts to doubt this whole having sex for money thing, and then Mia's like, yo, having sex and knowing what you're gonna get out of it up front is kind of lit. Maybe I should have sex with the piano player so he can help my music career. Like like that was so weird to like have that switch. And then but it does lead into what I would probably say is like a weird scene within this episode, but was still, I don't want to say funny, but like kind of like, whoa, what's gonna happen here kind of level of intrigue. She tries to have sex with a piano player in a church, no less, and he can't get it up, so she's like, I'm gonna get you some Viagra. She goes and digs random fucking pills out of Lucia's purse, and then gives this guy whatever the fuck, and now he ends up dying. And then not only that, but as he's being taken out, she goes to Valentina's like, yo, if you need a singer, I'm free. Like making it look like, almost making it look like she killed him on purpose so that she could take his job, which obviously wasn't the case. Well, we can't really say it obviously wasn't the case, because she either knew that this was a possibility or she is a complete fucking moron to give a guy random fucking pills. Like, one of these gotta be Viagra. Like, and then why was she so stuck on doing it in that moment? Like, that was such a weird scene to me. But yeah, I don't know what to think of Mia now, because part of me feels like, okay, she's either dumb as fuck or she knew that was a possibility but didn't care because she wanted to take over his job as the piano person or as for the singer for that resort. So, yeah, I don't know about Mia and that, but hey, let me know what you think about it in the comments. So Albie, Lucia, and Mia end up at the same bar as Portia and Jack. And Lucia and Albie start to compete with Portia and Jack to make the other person jealous. So Portia's trying to make Albie jealous, which, why? You've already fucked him over enough. You've already been completely fucking shitty to him. Why would you feel like you need to make him jealous now? Then Albie ends up responding at the behest of Lucia to now make Portia jealous. And Portia, for me in this episode, does like makes a complete turn from kind of like almost a sympathetic character to like, wow, she's like a real bitch. Like the way she like so smugly looks down on Albie, like, oh, I see what he's trying to do. Let me do that. Like she almost like holds some sort of resentment toward Albie for not being Jack when she first got there. And she turns into somebody who is like not just someone who wants to get thrown around by some Italian guy, which Jack's not even Italian, but she turns from that person, someone who just wants to have a good time, to someone who's like vindictive and mean and I don't want to say hateful, but like vindictive and mean towards someone who doesn't deserve it and who's only been nothing but nice to her. So like, I don't know why she felt like, oh, he's here with somebody else, let me make him miserable. Like, you already fucked him over earlier by flirting with Jack right at the same spot you were supposed to be meeting Albie at, and then smugly talking down to him when he awkwardly confronted you guys in the first place. So like, Portia is all bad this episode, but like I said, they compete to make each other jealous, and ultimately Portia ends up letting Jack clap her cheeks, and Albie gets some toppy from Lucia, and like I said, that's where he finishes the episode. But I feel like Albie's about to snap, right? Like, he's got he's already dealing with his family shit. Now he's got his father throwing him under the bus. He's inevitably gonna find out that the woman he just got head from also had sex with his father. And then now he also has to deal with Portia screwing him over and being cruel to him when he didn't really do anything to deserve it. So I feel like Albie's about to snap, and I feel like it would be a wild turn of events if, we know more people are going to end up dead besides the piano guy because he didn't end up in the water. It would be wild if more people end up dead and any of them are at the hands of Albie. Or maybe not at the hands of Albie, but due to something that Albie did. Like Albie having a body on his conscience that'd be a pretty interesting turn of events. So last thing I want to talk about real quick before I get to a couple of quick thoughts, Tanya and Greg, like I mentioned, and Portia. Like I mentioned, Portia, I mentioned Portia a little bit earlier, but she openly asked Tanya permission to give a normal guy a chance. Like, this is before they had agreed, her and Albie had agreed to meet up at this spot. And she's like, it's nice to be with somebody who is like she said, he's like non-binary or something like that. It seems like she just kind of has a resentment toward the way culture is today in America, like the pronouns and all these different sexual orientations, and the kind of like stuff that people complain about, like, oh, things are way more complicated than they were back then. And she, like, I'm wondering if that was done to kind of help paint Portia in a more negative light, or if, again, this is another thing I'm wondering about Mike White, if that's Mike White's world belief and he's saying this through a character, like he has a resentment toward the use of all these different genders and all these different pronouns. If he has a resentment toward that and he's voicing it through that character, and is also that out of touch that he thinks that that's not a bad look for that character, because that character is probably gonna get dragged on social media today. And I don't know if that's him putting his own beliefs out there, or if he wants the community or the viewers to feel even more resentment toward Portia than they already would with just how the way she's treating Albie. But I don't really know how people are looking at Portia's actions. Like, I'm extra hard on people who are selfish and lack empathy and who don't treat others the way they want to be treated, like who are just totally in it for self. I'm super hard on people like that. So I don't know if everybody else is looking at Portia as being as shitty of a person as I'm looking at her as being right now, but that seems to be the picture that Mike White is painting, and I'm curious if it's meant to be that and I'm interpreting it the correct way, or if this is him kind of like espousing his own world beliefs through a character, in which I gotta wonder, like, is Mike White a piece of shit? I don't know. But like I said, I mentioned already how I don't like how arrogantly dismissive she is of Albie once Jack enters into the picture. That really turned her into kind of like a bad guy in my eyes. And then Tanya, meanwhile, has taken up with this group of these gay guys, mainly the I don't want to call him the leader, but he's the one that primarily interacts with Tanya. His name's Quentin. He's the uncle of Jack. And I don't know where this is going, the Tanya hanging out with these guys. All I can know is it's an interesting change of circumstances for Tanya, who's kind of, so far in this trip has been trying to find time to spend with Greg, hoping he's going to stay, hoping to find this connection. Every time she goes on these trips, she kind of latches on to somebody who's already there. And now she's got this group of guys who not only have latched on to her and pulled her in, but who are super accepting of her and are giving her the good time in Italy that she wants. So I don't know where this is going, but I think it's setting up something really interesting for once Greg supposedly returns, which I would imagine will be in the next episode, because I think he said he was going to be gone 2 days, and I believe all the events of this episode happened the following day from the previous episode. So I guess we can assume the next episode will be the next day, and Greg's going to come back. And yeah, I'm really interested to see where that goes, because now that she's had a different experience with these guys, with Quentin and his people, how's it going to be when Greg comes back after he's been treating her like shit and supposedly going to see his other family? I don't know who these people are. So I'm going to wrap up, but I do want to wrap up with one quick thought, which is about Valentina. We've been talking about how this season has been really focused on sex, and not just sex in general, but like relationships and that dynamic. Everything with Lucia and Mia, and how they've interpreted their actions, like their kind of reversal of their worldviews. In this episode, you have how sex is playing a big role in how Harper and Ethan interpret their marriages, and how Cameron and Daphne interpret theirs, and how they look at each other's marriages. You have everything that's going on with Dom and his sexual situations and not being able to control himself. Like, all of this, everything revolves around sex, it seems like, for this season. And then, I've also proposed the idea that Ethan is possibly gay and into Cameron. And now with Valentina, I think it's been discussed that Valentina might be gay. I don't know if Valentina is gay. I personally subscribe to the idea that Valentina harbors a lot of resentment toward her staff and humans in general for just not being as efficient at life as she is. That's kind of how I look at people. And so for her to have somebody like Isabella to come along and compliment her and say, hey, you do a great job, when from Valentina's perspective, she's probably like, I have to hold this place together anyway because my staff sucks. And then she has somebody who comes along and goes, hey, I appreciate you and what you do. I'm wondering if this is now Valentina just kind of like latching on to Isabella because she validated her rather than some sort of sexual thing. But I mean, the sex is the theme here, so I don't know. But what ends up happening with them in this episode, Dom comes up while they're talking, and Valentina's already being much nicer to Isabella than anyone else. Dom comes up and he asks for a recommendation for a jewelry store to get a gift for his wife, which Albie later accuses him of essentially trying to buy her off. And Valentina's like, just go outside and walk and you'll find a place. And Isabella cites a specific place. Valentina clearly makes note of that place and then later buys Isabella a gift from that place. And again, she makes it sound coincidental, like, oh, just stopping by. But you could tell how she made note of the place when Isabella first mentioned it. So it's not that simple. And I'm wondering where this is going. Like, is it going to be something that is more, not even necessarily sexual, but romantic? Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. Is it going to be something that's more romantic in nature and Isabella's going to realize that and be like, wait, hold on? Or is it going to be something where it really is kind of like a genuine respect from Valentina because she likes being appreciated, but Isabella's going to interpret it as something romantic? Either way, I'm kind of interested to see where this goes. Sometimes there's certain things that are injected into a storyline or into a plot, and you wonder, like, why is this here? That's kind of how I feel about the Valentina stuff. I'm wondering where this is going. It felt a lot more clear with Armand last season, especially with Armand, like, how Armand was totally different with his staff. Like, he had the one guy, he's like eating this dude ass and shit. Like Armand had a totally different approach. But I'm wondering if that's where this is going to be going, because it does cut, like, even though Valentina and Armand are two different characters, and I mean beyond the literal sense. I mean, like, they just, the build of the makeup of who these characters are and how they're written is different. It would be interesting to see if Valentina does end up kind of almost being like the female Armand, where it's like, you know, this is why she's so grumpy. It's not like she doesn't respect the people who work for her, or she thinks they're incompetent. It's that maybe she is gay herself, wants to be with a woman, is tired of men coming at her, doesn't really understand why. But now that she's developed something with Isabella, she's starting to understand herself. And I'm wondering if that's where it's going, but I think we'll see. I'm going to wrap up here. This is going a little bit longer than I anticipated. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I will see you guys next week for episode 5. And until then, peace.